It's my nerd world. How's it going? A Star Wars podcast. So on the show this week, The Bad Batch, coming to Disney Plus, gets a release date, and we're going to empty the inbox from all your comments this week. It really is. That's the show. That's what I'll be talking about. So I suppose we should just go ahead and get right to it.
Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you? I'm no one. There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you.
My nerd world.
Just let it in.
It is my nerd world, and I am your host, Jon Justice, here for another episode of a Star Wars podcast. And things are kind of slow right now when it comes to Star Wars, which is really weird because it shouldn't be that way. Or should it? There's not a lot going on. I'll just say that much. And I think I know the reason why. So we'll keep it focused on Star Wars. But maybe I hadn't thought much about the dynamic of creating so much content on Disney Plus that it's going to be sharing time with other intellectual properties and other franchises. So we'll get into a bit of that. And it relates to The Bad Batch coming out and the release date for that. And then we're going to empty the inbox of your comments from the dual shows that we got last week. So that's what ends up happening, is that you get a smattering of interesting news. I do 2 shows, and then you get basically nothing all week long. So the only news item to really share is that The Bad Batch, which is the only, as far as I know, I think we get Visions this year, Star Wars Visions, but apart from the Book of Boba Fett at the end of the year, The Bad Batch is really all that we're getting this year, unless I'm missing something. So if I am, please feel free to email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com, or leave a comment on YouTube, but I am pretty sure that I am not missing anything. So The Bad Batch gets a release date of May 4th. So May the 4th be with you. So that doesn't surprise me all that much. It seems rather relevant. That is Star Wars Day. I sat down and started to watch the final season of the Clone Wars the other day, kicking it off with those Bad Batch episodes. The news had dropped, and I was like, you know what? Those were episodes that I did not go back and rewatch. So I started watching them again, and honestly, I was enjoying those episodes leading into the final episodes and the most important episodes, the one that we were all waiting for, right? The Order 66 from a different viewpoint, and the wrap-up of Ahsoka's story within Clone Wars. That when that final season dropped, I know I was excited to watch new Clone Wars, but I just kept waiting for those last episodes because we were so excited for them. So going back and rewatching some of The Bad Batch from that final season, I was enjoying it a heck of a lot more just because I was appreciating it, not anticipating what I was when they first released it. But the place that we're at right now with so little Star Wars going on, and again, I'm not complaining. We're going to get plenty of it down the line, but it's tough when we're getting WandaVision every single week, which has turned out to be just fantastic. And I want to talk not about the show, but about the way that they're designing that show. We've got Falcon and Winter Soldier coming out on March 19th, and I can't help but wonder how much of what we're dealing with is Disney wanting to sort of parse out and not monopolize, not have the two different franchises eat each other at the same time. We're gonna wrap up WandaVision, and then I believe we get a week off. I think it's that this is how it's going to work. So we'll wrap up WandaVision next week, and then we'll have a week off, and then the following week we'll kick off Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I'm really, really excited about. So I don't know. I wish we were getting more Star Wars this year. I'm looking forward to the Bad Batch. I'm looking forward to the Book of Boba Fett, but it's falling into that. It's falling into that sort of excitement of, I'm not excited for it because I don't know what we're getting into. And while I think Boba Fett's cool, it's not anything that I'm clamoring for. I'm sure that once it starts, it'll be like most everything else Star Wars, that I'll be like, oh, cool, now I'm getting into it. WandaVision was that way for me. Wanda Maximoff is one of my favorite characters from the MCU. I just always dug her character, and I enjoyed her and Vision's relationship in the films. But I'll be honest, I wasn't so much of a fan that I was like clamoring, right, for a WandaVision show. And the concept of the show I thought was really odd. And even those first few episodes were odd. Now I absolutely love it. I think they've done something very unique and very special. And it has me more excited for future Star Wars because I hope that they continue to adopt some of the storytelling techniques that they're using for the MCU and WandaVision into Star Wars. But I do want to ask you how you feel about that, because it is clear that they are putting a ton of attention and detail into these Marvel Cinematic Universe pieces of content. The videos that I watch, whether it's from Mr. Sunday Movies or whether it's from Nerdist, where they do these recaps of the episodes, it is incredible the amount of references and details and Easter eggs that they are just piling into these shows. It doesn't have a negative impact at all on the viewing experience, right? It does, however, raise sort of my interest level when I watch these recap shows where they go into detail and they pull the references from the comics and they talk about how this was referencing this particular issue of this run in this year of this character. I just find all that utterly fascinating. And the amount of, like I said before, Easter eggs that they're actually providing in the show, the attention to detail is just simply incredible. We've seen a little bit of this, and I'm wondering if with The Mandalorian we're beginning to see the adoption of some of the things that they've been doing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So let me back up real quick. I was listening to Around the Galaxy, I believe. It was either that or Talking Bay 94. Those are the two shows that I probably listen to most often. And they had one of the hosts on there, and one of the guests had made a comment about how the Marvel Cinematic Universe does a really, really good job of putting things within the movies and now the live-action TV shows, and I guess even the previous live-action TV shows, where casual fans may not pick it up, but the hardcore fans can grab onto little tiny details and know that something bigger is coming down the line. So, like early on in one of the early phases of the films, I think somebody had dropped a reference to Wakanda, and so instantly fans knew, okay, Black Panther is coming down the road. I know that we've done a little bit of this within Star Wars, and certainly, at least off the top of my head, I want to say, and I could be wrong, I want to say that the second season of The Mandalorian did this more than the first season of The Mandalorian. And that is bringing about references from previous films and little details. And the first season did it too, but it seemed like it was a little bit more upfront in the second season. I'm kind of desiring Disney to do a little bit more of what the MCU has been doing. Now, they certainly have been pulling from the expanded universe now Legends in a similar fashion that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been doing. So in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're not doing one-to-one remakes of past comic books, but they are grabbing onto certain elements as they retell these stories and they create the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They've been pulling from the past in order to bring that in. And certainly we've seen that within Star Wars, where they're more than willing to go back into Legends or the expanded universe prior, right? And grab onto little things and bring them into the Star Wars canon that we've all been enjoying. I think Thrawn's probably one of the best examples. I mean, Thrawn existed in the expanded universe before it became Legends, but it was in a completely different timeline than where he ended up, say, in Rebels, which subsequently will lead to him landing in, most likely, the Ahsoka show, right? We know that when it comes to the Rise of Skywalker, well, I don't think everybody does, but I know I do. When it comes to the Rise of Skywalker, if you go back and you read the Dark Empire line of comics in Legends, there are a lot of references to that. And I would love to be able to sit down with Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams and discuss that, because unless it just happened to be coincidence, which I don't think it was, they really did pull just a ton of different things from Dark Empire, which was a really, really interesting comic book run. But watching the MCU gets me excited for future Star Wars, and I hope that Star Wars is able to learn, and I feel like they learn from what they're doing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because I'll be honest, I'm becoming an even bigger fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe now because of the way that they've been handling their live action content. It's really been drawing me in. And this, and again, this is not a Marvel podcast, but it gets me excited for Star Wars because they did something really, truly unique while still being able to make it very much in the same vein of what we've experienced so far with the Marvel Cinematic Universe properties with WandaVision. I'm a really, really big fan of what they've done so far, and I can't wait for the season finale. And I'm really excited for what Falcon and Winter Soldier can bring. But it bums me out because, I want my Star Wars. Give me my Star Wars content. Sure, this will entertain me, and I like my MCU, but it ain't my galaxy far, far away, and I want my galaxy far, far away. So we'll get the Bad Batch on May 4th, and I'm excited about that. I still have not dove into the High Republic, and I would love to hear from you for those that have spent some time in the High Republic publication series. I've been too busy writing my own stories. I'm right now in the process of recording the audiobook for Book 5 in my EMBARK science fiction series. This is the final read-through. This is how the process works, is that I do the final read-through of the book before I release it, and that final read-through is my recording of the audiobook, which I can kill two birds with one stone. I get to say it out loud, I get to record it out loud, and then I get to make any adjustments based off of that read. So I still have not dove into any of the High Republic material. And look, and I've been honest about this up front. It hasn't really been interesting to me. Because I have been doing some reading. I've been reading the Rise of Skywalker novelization again, because I like to kind of keep my mind reading other novels in the middle of when I'm writing and in the creative process. Because while I'm recording Book 5, I'm also actually in the process of writing Book 6 in the series, which will also be out later this year. So if you are if you're signed up for the newsletter, you got an email today. This is on Saturday when I recorded this. You got an email today promoting that next book. If you're not signed up for the newsletter yet, go to mynerdworld.net, and you should get a prompt right up there up front where you can put in your email address. I also put out a link on my Facebook and my Twitter and on my Instagram. So if you go and check those out, you can see the post where I provide some details and a little bit more of the cover art for Book 5, which I'm really, really excited about. All right, let's get into some listener feedback this week.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
All right, speaking of batches, I got a good batch. I got a good batch of responses off of the dueling shows last week, listener feedback, and the shows talking about Rian Johnson's comments about Reylo being romantic in his mind, and the fact that Ryan is still doing his trilogy. So, first off, Brian Martin. Haven't heard from friend of the show, Brian Martin, for quite a few weeks, and he writes this: why do you think this trope happens so much? A character who dies in a previous movie coming back for a cameo to give a protagonist words of wisdom with no internal logic given to explain what we're actually seeing. It happened with Uncle Ben in Spider-Man 2, Pa Kent in Batman vs. Superman, Han in The Rise of Skywalker. Well, Brian, I think you kind of answered it in your opening question. It's a movie trope. It's a way to connect the protagonist to an important individual in their past, and it's really used quite often for that very reason. I don't know why it happens so much. I think it's an effective way to provide depth to a particular character and give them somebody who can help them on their journey, and help form that character arc of the protagonist in the middle of a story. And oftentimes protagonists are victims of a tragedy, losing a loved one. I mean, my gosh, if you've never gone down the rabbit hole of how many characters within Disney cartoons, parents are dead, it's almost disturbing. But you see, there's a lot of tropes that are out there. As a matter of fact, Melinda and I were just now talking about one. And speaking of the MCU, and I was trying to think of sort of the equivalent with Star Wars, but I couldn't come up with one. Because Star Wars always did a good job of dealing with this, and I'll explain in a moment. But especially within superhero movies, when they do the spin-off stories, why don't they ever call for help? I mean, there's a whole, within, DC and Marvel, there's a whole host of other superheroes that are out there. You don't have to battle this singular evil all on your own. Like Green Lantern's a good example, or even WandaVision. But most movies do that, right? Even like Mission Impossible films. It's like, well, you've got to have some other friends who have some expertise that aren't a part of the Mission Impossible force and haven't been for a while that you could call to help you in this moment where you have to go searching for this nuclear bomb at this, in this foreign country on this large, expansive, medical camp. I'm sure you can grab another half a dozen people to help you search, right? But it doesn't. It would not make the stories all that more, all that interesting if they were to go in and to do that. Star Wars hasn't done that, but Star Wars has very much established sort of that universe that they live in, and that it really always has been sort of a good versus evil. That's that faction, that's this faction, and there really isn't other individuals to go and help, except to say, which I think is pretty cool. The concept at the end of The Rise of Skywalker is exactly what we're talking about, or what I'm talking about. And that is, here you have this very small group of resistance fighters going to try to wipe out the Sith Eternal that is now combined with the New Order, or with the First Order. I've got the band stuck in my head. With the First Order. And if it hadn't been for Han bringing in, where did they get a navy? It's not a navy, it's just people. If it hadn't been for Han going out and getting all those people, you would have been scratching your head going, why didn't they bother to try to elicit some help? But they did, which I thought was really cool. So tropes are there to make, movies and content better. That's all it comes down to. But thanks for the email, Martin. I appreciate it. All right, friend of the show, Adela Erdman writes this. More Qui-Gon would be awesome. I think there are some comics or animation that cover Qui-Gon learning and passing on what he learned to Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I couldn't tell you which. However, there is a comic I can tell you about. In it, Leia is running away from the droid nanny through the garden. Brea finds them in front of a statue of Padme. I believe it depicts her imagining her mother as if she was there. Yep, I've actually read that comment. It could be visions or a Force ghost. That would be why she doesn't remember much, as if she were really there. It does explain why she does remember her and what she looks like. Yeah, I do remember that particular comic, trying to bridge the gap of why Leia didn't have any memories of her mother. So thank you, Dale. I appreciate that. Miranda Alicia says this, as they say in the game of chess, with regard to Rian Johnson announcing that he, or at least telling in that interview that his trilogy was still going to happen. Never announce your next move, or at least don't tell them everything yet. I'll be fair, Rise of Skywalker can be just as enjoyable if you just allow yourself to have fun with it and see the good things that are there. Totally agree, Miranda, and thank you for the email. Irene Davis, you're all friends of the show, by the way, but friend of the show, Irene Davis, says this. Super excited about all this news, John. I finally feel after losing hope we as a family group on your channel are going to get our mojos back. Keep the faith, nerds. We are all getting there. Case S, friend of the show, says this. As for the Kenobi info, super excited. Hope so much for this to come to fruition. Talking about last week's show and the Kenobi information that we shared. The Last Jedi lends itself so well to the rise of Skywalker, especially with the heated moments. If you have ever poured your soul out to another human being and have been rejected, yes, you know that pain can turn into spiteful anger pretty quickly. Yes. So, Rey's raw emotion is so poignant in those scenes. The kiss was sweet and beautiful, and the finger touch was passionate and intimate. Finger touch and lovin'. The movies might be different in tone and pace, but the Rey and Rey-Ben storyline stays true throughout in my mind. I'm still such a sucker for Reylo. Sheesh. Me too. All right, thank you for that. SheVP says this. I'm so happy that Ryan said that. I know he said, right, I know he said that his mom was a Reylo. And after seeing The Rise of Skywalker, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I wonder what Ryan's mom thinks of this ending, LOL. Pretty sure Adam has also considered them romantic. He said in an interview that he preferred the intimate side to their relationship as opposed to the adversarial side. And I think he was trying to tell us that he would die because when he appeared on Stephen Colbert, he and Colbert were playing with Rey and Kylo action figures, and they made them kiss, and then Adam said, and now he lays down and takes a nap. Ugh, my heart, LOL. Anyway, another great show, John. Thank you. Thank you, SheVP. And I'm gonna dovetail back. I got two more comments here, and I want to dovetail back to that because I have an idea about something that I want to throw out there. Purple Flower says this, 2 podcasts in 1 week. Definitely a nice surprise after this crazy winter storm here in Texas. Now that I'm caught up, all I'm going to say is it bums me out so much to see how people aren't able to tolerate different thoughts and opinions. Yep. As a society, we talk so much about tolerance, yet we fail to do so. Yep. As Qui-Gon Jinn said to Anakin in a deleted scene of Episode 1, you will have to tolerate his opinion. Fighting will not change it. Thank you, Purple Flower. That was a great comment. Pika Power says this. I like how well measured your commentary is. It felt fair and respectful to both sides of the argument. Great show. Thank you very much for that. With reference to the Gina Carano situation. Which, by the way, if you haven't had the opportunity to check out the interview that she did with Ben Shapiro, I would definitely... regardless of your feelings of Ben Shapiro, I would definitely go and check it out. It was pretty revealing, especially if you follow what's gone on with Disney, right? It's relevant. It's relevant to the show. I want to spin back before we wrap up the show this week. It's a short one this week, but I want to spin back to what SheVP said, and I want to grab back onto WandaVision and give you my idea for a pitch that I would love to take to Disney and Lucasfilm. And it's this. What WandaVision has done has elevated those two characters, and it's made me, and I know the friends that I have, it's made us want to go back and watch the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies that include those characters, right? It has elevated, like we've seen so much Star Wars content do to films, or like Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, okay? So it really has elevated those two characters and made the scenes in the films even more important. When I watch, Infinity War and Endgame, by the end, with it wrapping up, spoiler alert, with oh my gosh, why am I Captain America? Just blanked on his name. That was weird. With Captain America, it's like, oh, it's Captain America's story. But there's an argument to be made that, well, yeah, but it really is kind of Iron Man and Pepper Potts' story. Well, yeah, but now we've got this amazing live-action series of WandaVision where, wow, there's a lot of this is actually, Wanda and Vision's story too. And it really is the genius of what Kevin Feige has done for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and how, again, I feel more confident even though I was really confident in the Star Wars content we're going to get coming out of Disney because of what they've been able to accomplish with the success of the Marvel MCU. So this is what I would pitch. And I think that this could really, I think that you could accomplish a lot of different things within the fandom. Now that we have the sequel trilogy finished, and we have this amazing established story between Rey and Ben Solo. And I was thinking about this on my most recent rewatches, because I watched Last Jedi last weekend, that one of these days I'm going to spend some time just talking about those two characters and their story throughout those three films, because it really is incredible. Look, the prequel trilogy, if we go in order, was Anakin and Padme and Anakin's downfall. The original trilogy was, the story of a father and his son, right, and the redemption of Anakin Skywalker after his downfall. And then we get into the sequel trilogy, and it really is it's the dyad. It's these two characters. So I would love to see Disney fill in the gap between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, and I guess the way you could do it is have two stories running consecutively, or one story, right? You could have a story that isn't necessarily, maybe it's just about the Resistance, but in it, we've got Daisy Ridley. And within it, we get connections between Daisy and Kylo Ren that would really expand upon what was started in The Last Jedi, and then also elevate what was finished in The Rise of Skywalker. Or you could have two separate shows. You could have a show about Rey between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, right? Dealing with various situations as it relates to the First Order. And then you could have one with Kylo Ren running parallel, where we get both sides of the equation. And maybe they don't ever face-to-face. They don't ever come face-to-face, but we could have plenty of interactions between those two via their forced connections. There's a lot of ways you could play with those two characters without disturbing any of the continuity of the two films by playing within that year or so that took place. I think we're going to see that, as we talked about last week with the Kenobi information. I think that if those rumors are true, that we're going to see, perhaps we will see a rematch that doesn't undermine what happened in A New Hope between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, where it actually goes and elevates the comments that are made on the Death Star in that duel of, when I met you, I was but the learner, but now I am the master. When he talks to Luke Skywalker, he's more machine now than man, twisted and evil. As we talked about last week, I can envision now a circumstance where the two of them end up coming face to face. Wouldn't it be rad if that was on Mustafar and Anakin and Darth Vader wasn't wearing the helmet, like I suggested last week, and it's Hayden Christensen's burnt visage, right? But of Obi-Wan trying to bring him back, which is why Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't bother to do it when he saw him on the Death Star, because he tried it in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and it failed. Basically, Obi-Wan Kenobi tries a second time of turning Anakin back to the good side while he's Darth Vader, and he fails. That's what I think is going to play out. So I think that would be a really good way to help with the fandom, give the fandom what they want as it relates to Reylo without disturbing the continuity of the films, and those that were never into it don't have to watch. And now you've got this fantastic show. And I think there's a possibility there. I think, Adam Driver is probably the tougher get, maybe, but when you, again, look at the success that they're having with the Marvel MCU and how it seems like everybody is really clamoring to be in that, if they continue to go down this path, which we know they're going to when it comes to Star Wars, I don't see any reason why an Adam Driver wouldn't. Daisy Ridley has already said that she was open to playing Rey again. And getting them while they're still close to the ages of what they were in The Rise of Skywalker between those two films, I think would be flat-out genius. So, Disney, you can go ahead and cut me a check right now. As a matter of fact, don't cut me a check. Why don't you buy the rights to my EMBARK science fiction space opera series, and you can create an all-new franchise science fiction franchise. A completely different style, but still science fiction space opera for your Disney Plus streaming service. And we already have the books written and the stories are already there. They're called EMBARK. So in Disney, you can go to Amazon.com and you can search for Jon Justice, and you can get them there. There's 4 books available, with the 5th book coming out in March. So there you go. Just do that, and then I'll give you my idea of my just call it Raylo. Why have I not landed on it? We got WandaVision. Raylo. Coming to Disney Plus. My gosh! Can you imagine? So many of you guys are going to write me. You're hammering away. You're writing to me right now. If you're not even writing, you didn't even start writing, and you're already writing to me, telling me what a great idea that is. Raylo. Set between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, while the Resistance continues to battle the First Order, Rey gets disturbances in the Force that another darkness is lurking. In the meantime, she continues to struggle with the anguish and the tension between her and Kylo Ren, as Kylo Ren wrestles with his good side of Ben Solo, leading into the events of The Rise of Skywalker. Raylo coming soon. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. I think that's brilliant. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, that's it. That wraps up the show this week. I already promoted the books. Go to Amazon.com and pick them up, please. It's how you support the show. I would really, really appreciate it. Get on the mailing list. Cannot wait to get the 5th book out. The 5th book is awesome, especially if you're a fan of a certain thing. That's all I'm going to say. So, yeah, thanks for checking the show out this week. I look forward to hearing from you between now and next week. I hope wherever you are, you're safe and you're healthy. I put in my newsletter that we just thought out because we went through the longest stretch of like sub-zero temperatures. It was the longest stretch of sub-zero temperatures that I've ever been through in my entire life, and I never want to go through it again. But then I just looked at my phone because right now it's a nice, comfortable 41 degrees outside, and I just looked at my phone, and apparently there's a winter storm watch starting at 9 o'clock tonight. So, yay! We get another 4 inches of snow tomorrow. All right. Hey, have yourself a fantastic week. I look forward to hearing from you. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com, or drop me a comment on YouTube. Bye-bye.
The Force will be with you, always.
My nerd world.